The trial involving Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has taken a shocking turn that no one could have predicted, and the moment that has everyone talking is the sudden entrance of Isabela Ferrer, the young actress who once portrayed a younger version of Blake Lively on screen. Her words have now turned into the spark that has lit up Hollywood with debate and speculation, and the way she has aimed her comments directly at Baldoni has left fans stunned, critics divided, and the industry scrambling. To understand what this means, Ferrer has managed to do something few could ever achieve. She has shifted the narrative of a multi-million-dollar courtroom drama with nothing but her voice and her honesty. Her perspective as a rising star, not bound by decades of reputation, has given her a freedom to speak that others only dream of. And this freedom has made her one of the most talked about figures in the entire saga. The public is now watching closely. Every move she makes, every phrase she posts, and every shadow her words cast over the courtroom drama. Her presence has turned a trial into a generational showdown that no one can ignore. The courtroom surrounding Blake Lively has become a spectacle that no one in Hollywood could have predicted, and now with Isabela Ferrer stepping into the storm, the entire narrative has shifted in ways that are both shocking and strangely symbolic, because when Ferrer, who played the younger version of Blake in a recent production, spoke out against Justin Baldoni, she tapped into something that feels larger than herself. She is young. She is not weighed down by decades of celebrity battles, and she is not tied to the web of legal teams and public relations machines that dominate Hollywood. She is simply a rising star with a perspective and the courage to voice it. And that courage has made waves across every corner of the entertainment industry, as people scramble to understand what her words mean for this already chaotic trial. Ferrer framed her shots at Baldoni not as petty insults, but as observations from someone who knows what it means to portray the very woman at the center of this trial. She spoke about the image of Blake Lively that she was asked to embody, the charm, the power, the carefully polished aura, and how in contrast she views the dynamic with Justin Baldoni as manipulative, calculated, and at times dismissive of the women around him. Those are strong claims, especially coming from someone so young and so new to the industry. And yet perhaps that is what makes them resonate, because while veterans in Hollywood might hesitate to risk their future, Ferrer has decided to speak without fear, and her voice now echoes louder than many expected it to. This trial has already been filled with turning points, but Ferrer's involvement feels like something different, like a generational shift in how Hollywood's power struggles are understood and discussed. The younger audience who watched her portray Lively are now seeing her step into real-life drama, and they are hanging on to every word, every interview, and every cryptic post she makes on social media. The timing of her comments is no coincidence either. They came right after a tense day in court, where Baldoni's lawyers attempted to block key messages from being entered into the record messages that allegedly involve private conversations between Blake Lively and some of her closest confidants. Ferrer, in response, seemed to suggest that blocking the truth is the very reason people no longer trust the process in Hollywood. She said that authenticity will always surface, no matter how much money or legal maneuvering tries to bury it. Those words struck a nerve with fans who are exhausted from watching celebrity scandals unfold with layers of secrecy and spin. The public is craving authenticity, and Ferrer provided it. Even if her version is raw and unpolished, Justin Baldoni and his team were quick to downplay her remarks, suggesting that she is too inexperienced to understand the complexities of the situation. But that only added more fire to the conversation, because critics argued that dismissing a younger woman speaking her mind was exactly the problem. Ferrer herself seemed unfazed, doubling down in subtle ways by posting supportive messages about honesty, about courage, and about standing up for what you know to be right. And each of these posts has been dissected by fans, commentators, and even some media outlets looking for clues about where she stands. The fact that a rising star can shake the narrative of a multi-million-dollar trial says a lot about how fragile the reputations of Hollywood elites have become once unshakable. Titans now find themselves vulnerable to the opinions of newcomers who dare to challenge them, and Ferrer has become a symbol of that shift. Her involvement also raises questions about the blurred line between performance and reality. After all, she once played Blake Lively on screen, and now she seems to be defending an image of Lively in real life. And the public is struggling to separate the actress from the role. The comments Ferrer made about Baldoni suggested not just a critique of his behavior, but of the system that allows figures like him to thrive, a system that has long relied on silence, on keeping appearances, and on protecting the powerful, even when those in less powerful positions are made to feel ignored or silenced. The moment Ferrer spoke, she cracked that system just a little more. And while some may say she overstepped, others argue that she did what no one else dared to do, which was to point out the imbalance directly. The internet quickly took sides. Hashtags supporting Ferrer trended for hours. Memes were created comparing her youthful defiance to the silence of seasoned celebrities and commentators. Noted that this was not just a trial anymore. It had become a cultural debate about power, about voice, and about who gets to tell the story. Of Hollywood, the energy surrounding Ferrer has also made it harder for Baldoni and his team to control the narrative. Every statement they release is immediately compared against the authenticity of her words. And while they have experience and polish on their side, she has honesty and rawness, which in this moment seems to carry more weight. The courtroom itself has not been spared from this ripple effect, as discussions about whether Ferrer could be called to testify have begun circulating. Though her actual involvement remains uncertain, the mere suggestion that she could step foot in that courtroom has sent shockwaves through the case, because her testimony would not only be symbolic, it would be devastating to those who hoped her voice would stay outside the official record. Fans and critics alike are now speculating on what might happen if she does appear. Some believe her presence would tilt public sympathy even further against Baldoni, while others think it could complicate matters by drawing attention away from the actual legal issues and onto the spectacle of Hollywood youth standing up against Hollywood power. Either way, the fact that we are even entertaining this possibility shows how much influence she already has in shaping the narrative beyond the courtroom. The entertainment press has seized on this story with ferocity. Every outlet is running features on Ferrer, examining her rise, her connection to Lively, and her sudden role in this legal drama. Interviews from years ago are being dug up where she spoke about how much she admired Lively and how important the role was for her. And now those quotes are being reframed as foreshadowing for her current involvement. The cycle feeds itself, creating more buzz, more coverage, and more pressure for everyone involved. What is undeniable is that Ferrer has become an unexpected player in this saga, and the way she has inserted herself has created both opportunities and dangers for her future in Hollywood. Supporters say she is courageous for speaking up. Detractors say she is reckless. But no matter which side one falls on, the truth is that she has become impossible to ignore. This trial, which was once framed as a battle between two Hollywood giants, is now also a stage for a rising actress to challenge the status quo. And in doing so, she has changed the way people are talking about the entire case. In fact, some insiders suggest that behind the scenes, Lively's team sees Ferrer as an asset, not because she is officially aligned with them, but because her words echo sentiments that they themselves may not be able to express publicly without consequences, whether coordinated or not. The effect is the same. Ferrer has shifted the balance and added fuel to a fire that shows no signs of burning out anytime soon. As the trial between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni escalates, the role of Isabela Ferrer continues to grow larger in the public imagination. And it is not just because of her bold comments, but also because of how her voice has amplified conversations that were previously whispered behind the scenes. Hollywood insiders are now pointing out that Ferrer represents a kind of freedom that established stars cannot afford. She has not yet been tied down by studios. She has not yet been shaped by the weight of decades of public scrutiny. And so when she speaks, there is a clarity that cuts through the noise. This clarity is dangerous for Baldoni, whose team has carefully constructed a narrative of control, professionalism, and moral high ground. But Ferrer disrupts that construction by offering a view that feels human and unpolished. And audiences who are tired of the rehearsed perfection of celebrity statements are leaning into her perspective. The internet has become a battlefield where Ferrer is praised for her courage while Baldoni is criticized for trying to minimize her role. Some fans even argue that Ferrer is saying what others in the industry wish they could say, and this idea has transformed her into a figure larger than her career suggests. The ripple effect of her words is now being studied by public relations experts, who note that authenticity has become a new currency in the entertainment world. And Ferrer seems to have an endless supply of it. Her youth, her relatability, and her symbolic connection to Lively give her words a weight that traditional Hollywood power cannot easily counterbalance. Baldoni, meanwhile, faces the challenge of defending his reputation in a climate where even a small slip can be magnified into a headline. The more his team tries to dismiss Ferrer, the more attention she receives. And this dynamic is leaving them trapped in a cycle they cannot escape. The courtroom itself is a theater, but the media has become a second stage, and Ferrer has mastered it without even trying. Her posts are brief, her interviews are minimal, but the impact is profound. Commentators have noted that her strength lies not in over-explaining, but in planting seeds of thought that others then amplify across platforms, and this technique, whether intentional or natural, has become a nightmare for those trying to maintain control over the case. Fans who were once passive observers of the lively Baldoni conflict are now actively debating Ferrer's role, with some suggesting she could be the symbolic voice of the audience itself, a representation of how younger generations view Hollywood power struggles. The symbolism is powerful because it frames Ferrer as more than an actress. It frames her as a cultural witness. Her critique of Baldoni went beyond personal opinion when she questioned why Hollywood still tolerates dismissive behavior toward women. She tapped into a wider cultural frustration, and that is why her comments spread like wildfire the moment she suggested that ignoring young voices is part of the problem. Thousands of fans echoed her words across social media, turning them into a rallying cry. Baldoni has attempted to present himself as progressive and forward-thinking, but Ferrer's comments cut at the heart of that image, suggesting that progressivism is meaningless if it still relies on silencing those who dare to speak. Critics of Baldoni have latched onto this point, repeating it in think pieces and on podcasts, while supporters argue that Ferrer is too inexperienced to judge, but even that defense feels weak because it implies that experience should be a barrier to speaking truth. And that is a narrative that no longer resonates with audiences who crave honesty over hierarchy. Ferrer's presence has even begun to influence how witnesses and lawyers frame their statements in court. Insiders say that both sides are aware of how the public is interpreting every detail, and Ferrer's words have shifted the lens through which people view Baldoni's actions. Every attempt he makes to assert authority is now scrutinized under the assumption that he may be dismissing younger or less powerful voices. This shift is subtle, but it is powerful. It changes how the public perceives not only his behavior, but also the entire Case Lively's team may not officially align themselves with Ferrer, but the overlap in message has created the impression that she is on their side, and that impression alone is a victory in the court of public opinion. Legal analysts have pointed out that while Ferrer may not have direct influence over the evidence, her ability to sway perception could ultimately impact the pressure placed on both sides, and perception in high-profile trials often shapes the outcomes as much as the law itself. Beyond the legal stakes, Ferrer's involvement has also ignited debates within Hollywood about generational divides. Younger actors are watching her with admiration, seeing in her the possibility of challenging systems without fear, while older actors are more cautious, reminding each other of the risks of speaking too freely. Yet even among the cautious, there is acknowledgement that Ferrer has sparked something important. She has forced a conversation that was long overdue about who gets to critique powerful figures and who gets to shape the story of Hollywood. The entertainment press continues to amplify her role, dissecting every word and creating narratives that place her at the center of a cultural movement. Whether she intended it or not, Ferrer has become a voice for change at a time when Hollywood is being asked to reform from within. Her name trends on social media, alongside Lively and Baldoni, and fans now eagerly await her next move as though she were a lead player in the trial itself. Some argue that Ferrer is at risk of being consumed by the spectacle, but so far she has navigated the attention with surprising calm. Her strategy seems to be rooted in patience and saying less and letting the world interpret more, and that strategy has ironically given her more power than those delivering long, carefully prepared statements as this dynamic unfolds. One thing is clear: Baldoni has underestimated the impact of a young actress who once played a younger version of his courtroom rival. By dismissing her, he has only given her more attention. And in Hollywood, where perception is power, that could be the biggest misstep of his career. The impact of Isabela Ferrer on the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni trial has now moved beyond the realm of commentary and into the heart of public perception, where every word she utters is treated as if it carries the weight of sworn testimony. The strange twist is that Ferrer herself is not officially involved in the proceedings, at least not yet, but her influence has grown so significant that legal experts are starting to question whether her presence in the conversation could eventually tip the balance in ways no one predicted. This is the kind of unexpected player that makes trials like this not just legal showdowns but cultural turning points. Ferrer represents a new era of Hollywood where the lines between actor and advocate, between storyteller and participant blur until they are almost indistinguishable when she spoke against Baldoni, suggesting that his carefully maintained image was built on dismissiveness toward voices that did not serve his agenda. Fans immediately connected the dots to the themes of power imbalance that have long defined the industry. Suddenly, Baldoni was not just a director and actor in a trial with Lively. He became a stand-in for an entire system of old Hollywood structures, and Ferrer became the voice calling those structures out. Her rise in this narrative has been meteoric, and unlike anything seen in years. What makes it more astonishing is the way she has wielded silence and subtlety, instead of loud declarations. When Baldoni's lawyers tried to undermine her credibility, she did not launch into defensive speeches. She posted a short phrase about truth, always finding its way and let the world do the rest. The comment exploded into headlines, talk show discussions, and countless social media threads where fans declared that Baldoni had finally met his match, not in the courtroom, but in the cultural conversation that swirls around it. Lively herself has remained quiet in response to Ferrer's growing role, which some analysts see as intentional silence, by staying out of the fray. She allows Ferrer to say what she cannot without legal consequences. And this unspoken alliance, whether real or imagined, has created an almost mythical narrative of older and younger versions of the same star standing against a common adversary. Fans have even begun to describe Ferrer as Lively's echo, the voice of her younger self, refusing to be silenced by Hollywood's power games. This poetic framing has only added more fire to the spectacle. Memes and fan edits spread across social media with images of Ferrer as young Blake juxtaposed against Lively herself in the courtroom, turning the legal battle into something resembling a cinematic saga. And in many ways, that is exactly how the public is consuming it, as a story with characters, symbols, and arcs. Ferrer symbolizes defiance. Baldoni symbolizes the establishment, and Lively stands as the embattled icon caught in between. This symbolic storytelling is shaping real-world perceptions, and those perceptions feed back into the trial itself, making it impossible to separate the law from the spectacle. Every witness, every filing, every motion is now viewed through the lens of the narrative. Ferrer helped ignite Baldoni's team, is aware of this, and has struggled to find the right tone in addressing her. Their efforts to discredit her only draw more attention, while ignoring her makes them look dismissive, which ironically reinforces her critique. It is a catch-22 that no amount of legal expertise can resolve, and so Baldoni is left in a position where even silence works against him. The danger here is not just reputational but strategic, because the court of public opinion does matter in high-profile cases. Judges and juries do not operate in a vacuum. They see the headlines, they feel the cultural mood, and while they may not admit it, those elements influence the weight of arguments inside the courtroom. Ferrer's presence outside the courtroom has shifted that cultural mood in favor of Lively, who now enjoys not just sympathy, but also a sense of symbolic vindication. Every time Ferrer speaks or posts, Lively's silence feels more powerful because it is as though her younger self is speaking for her. And this layered storytelling has become impossible for Baldoni to counter beyond the immediate trial. Ferrer has sparked discussions within Hollywood about the future of stardom industry. Veterans are debating whether authenticity will replace polish as the most valuable commodity in celebrity culture. Her rise has proven that one voice speaking raw truth, or at least appearing to do so, can eclipse years of carefully constructed reputations. Studios are now watching closely because if Ferrer's influence continues, it could reshape how actors are groomed for the spotlight and how much control they hold over their own narratives. For Ferrer herself, the risks are immense. She could be blacklisted for stepping into a battle this volatile, or she could become the face of a new generation of Hollywood, where truth-telling is rewarded rather than punished. So far, the public leans toward the latter. Her name now trends alongside established stars, and she has earned coverage usually reserved for A-list celebrities simply because she dared to speak when others stayed silent. And this shift demonstrates how fragile traditional hierarchies in Hollywood really are. Baldoni, who once commanded respect as both an actor and director, now finds himself overshadowed by a young actress barely at the start of her career. This inversion of power dynamics has stunned observers and sparked endless debates among fans who argue that the trial has already delivered one verdict. The verdict that Public opinion no longer belongs to the powerful but to those willing to challenge them. Ferrer embodies that verdict, and her every move from here on out will be scrutinized as though it carries the weight of the case itself. Some even speculate that Baldoni will be forced to address her directly, perhaps through an interview or even a statement in court. And if that happens, it will mark a breaking point, because acknowledging her would validate her power while ignoring her continues to erode his credibility. It is a lose-lose situation that has placed him in one of the most precarious positions of his career. And all of it began with a few sentences spoken by a young woman who once portrayed Blake Lively in a film. The irony is almost cinematic. The actress who once played Lively's younger self now defends her essence in real life, standing against the very forces that threaten to silence her. This poetic twist has captivated the world and ensured that Ferrer will not fade from this narrative anytime soon. As the dust begins to settle around this chapter of the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni trial, one thing is certain: the voice of Isabela Ferrer has changed the course of the story in ways no one could have foreseen. Her decision to step forward and speak from a place of raw truth has elevated her from rising actress to cultural symbol, and her connection to Lively as the young version of the star has only deepened the meaning behind her words. What began as a simple commentary has now become a rallying cry for a younger generation that is no longer willing to accept silence or dismissal from those in power. The tension between Baldoni and Ferrer is not just about individuals, but about the systems they represent. And in that sense, Ferrer has already won, because she has forced the industry and the public to look at the imbalance with new eyes. The trial will continue, the evidence will be debated, and the verdict will eventually come. But the legacy of this moment will remain. Ferrer has proven that even the youngest voices can echo the loudest, and Hollywood will never view them the same way again.